Supporters of a conspiracy theory QAnon not only grow online, but also politically and in government. Campaign spending for the presidential election takes a surprising turn, and the former governor of Iowa leaves his post as the ambassador to China for the Trump administration. That's all up for discussion this morning with former Iowa Republican Party Chair Steve Grubbs and former Ask Me Local 46 President Greg Johnson. Always great to see you both. Going to start quickly. We learned last weekend former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad is leaving his job as the U.S. ambassador to China. The Trump administration asked him to step down and help with the campaign. Now, Branstad was touted being among the best appointments by the president for his relationship with China's president. However, that did seem to weaken with the implementation of tariffs on Chinese goods by the administration. Branstad was not considered a big player in the trade policy, and some analysts say he was not used like most ambassadors are. So, Steve, was Branstad used effectively, and what could have been done differently given the history he has with the Chinese president?
Yeah, it's, you know what, first of all, the governor and the president of China have been friends for a long time. So to the extent that anybody could communicate with the Chinese government, it would be Governor Branstad. Having said that, when I was in Beijing at the ambassador's residence almost 2 years ago now, he was fairly new in his position, and he told me that at that point, he didn't intend to stay the entire term, that he would come up, but he's got family. He and Chris have grandchildren in Iowa. And even though people may not see that as important to us, it is important to them. And so their intention all along was to spend a portion of the first term there and then come back to Iowa. And I think that's exactly what he's doing.
But do you think he was used effectively in his role?
I think as effectively as any ambassador can be. You know, if there's any country that President Trump is managing a relationship with, it's China. And so, for the most part, the role of the ambassador is to, first of all, protect citizens, which he's done a great job of, but then second, to communicate important messages. And those messages that are not communicated through the news media are certainly communicated well through the governor, ambassador.
Greg, you have anything to weigh in on before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty smart campaign move by the president's campaign. I mean, Iowa is a battleground state. Branstad still has pretty good standing, obviously, in the state of Iowa. He wants to make China a bigger issue than anything that the president can do to kind of mute the Russia argument. He's obviously made a decision to demonize China in this election and try to tie Vice President Biden to China. And I think Branstad's popularity in the state of Iowa, I think it's a smart move on the president's part, to be honest.
All right, let's get into the campaign and specifically the money involved here, because you can't underestimate the importance of money in elections. A lot of people are following the money in the presidential race. President Trump is now cutting back on TV ads, and he spent a lot of money early and actually now trails Joe Biden cash on hand. The ad tracking company Advertising Analytics indicates Biden is spending more than the president in battleground states like Wisconsin, Florida, and Arizona, for example. President Trump suggested he could inject $100 million of his own money. I guess, how significant are these developments? What does it mean for the electoral map? Greg?
Well, you know, I don't think this election is so polarizing. I don't think either campaign's going to just run out of money. I don't think that there's going to be any huge advantage financially for either campaign at this part. I mean, it's really about where they're going to spend their money. Where do they think they have their best opportunities? Obviously, the battleground states are where most of this money is going to be spent. And each campaign has to decide where they think they can turn a state around from either blue to red or red to blue. And then it's rather going to be the strategy side of just how they're going to spend all this money.
How surprising, though, is it for Biden to have more money than Trump at this stage of the race? Greg?
Oh, I don't think it's. Are you talking to me or Steve?
Follow up with you. Yeah.
To me?
Yeah.
I don't think it's surprising at all. I mean, there's a lot of bad news out there for this president. They can claim that these are false media reports and everything else, but I mean, we've got him on tape. You know, his handling of the COVID crisis has been it's been disgusting, quite honestly. I mean, we've literally lost nearly 200,000 lives. And the president's admitted that he played this thing down initially. And even to this day, he still conducts himself like this is not a real crisis with his refusal to take serious local mask mandates. So I can definitely see a lot of people peeling off and going the other way.
Well, let me get Steve in here. How significant are those financial developments, and does it mean anything to the electoral map?
I think Greg is right in that the money isn't going to matter that much in the presidential campaign. In almost every other election, money matters. The president always has, and especially this president, has an advantage in that he's got 50 million Twitter followers. Every time he communicates, it's like running $1 million TV ad. So you know, Vice President Biden has an extremely motivated group of donors for obvious reasons. The president has an extremely motivated army of people out there that support him. And so this really, and frankly, of the 300 million Americans, this election comes down to about 3, 4, 5 million of them. So it's really a matter of about 9 states targeting 3 to 5% of the population in those 9 states. And that's where this election is today. And it's not about money. It is all about motivation, turnout, and whether there really is this vote that does not show up in the polls for Trump, which seems to be what we've seen in 2016 and are probably seeing today.
Well, let's move on to one more topic before we go. We don't have a lot of time left. One of the more unusual political developments this year is the rise of QAnon, specifically some Republican candidates who now embrace the conspiracy theory that are basically asserts that devil worshippers are trafficking kids for sex around the world, that they're working to undermine President Trump, and that he is fighting them directly. None of this factual. NBC News, in fact, reports there are millions of followers online. Now some Republican politicians are embracing the conspiracy and winning. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for one, won the Republican primary for a congressional seat from Georgia, and that virtually assures she will win in November. We saw the Republican leadership render Steve King powerless for his repeated racist statements. What does this mean for American government? How do you think the party should or will respond to this, Steve?
Well, so first of all, you may know that I know a lot of Republicans.
You do?
I haven't run into any of them that believes that Satan is running a conspiracy to undo the president. But I'm sure of the 50 to 100 million Republicans out there, you can find some, and you can probably find a handful of candidates. The reality is there is an establishment in Washington whose power is being disrupted by this president. And that group of people are in the bureaucracy, in the media, and it's not a conspiracy to think that there's a lot of people that would like to see this president out of office. So to the extent that people believe that there's a lot of powerful people trying to get the president out of office, probably true. To the extent that this whole thing about Satan is a deal, I just think it's blown out of proportion because it plays into the advantage of the left.
All right, Steve Grubbs, Greg Johnson, I really ran tight on time on the last one. Thank you both for your time, and stay safe out there. And now, our question of the week. What changes, if any, would you like to see regarding campaign spending? You can send your answer by email to fortherecord at WHBF.com or respond to this post on Facebook, the Local 4 News WHBF TV page, or on my page.